And so we've said that we will have in-person worship if we can get volunteers willing to help with the social distancing and welcome at the door and the ushering. And I'm not sure if people will stand up to do that. We did a survey that really was not a clear, overwhelming request to go back to worship. It was somewhat split, but maybe more on the side of caution and folks not wanting to go back. So I'm not yet convinced that we'll be in person, but we are going to try. So it could happen on the 20th of September in Larchmont. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen. How about Barbara from Germans? Hi, Barbara. Oh, you're muted. There we go.
Okay. My name is Barbara Powers. I'm from Germans Church. I've been involved in the Sunday school program for like over 40 years, but I will defer my time to Patty Zollinger, who was our clerk of session and our Sunday school superintendent and is the wizard. She knows it all.
Great,
So,
Patty, where are you?
Patty.
Thanks, Barbara.
There you are.
Yes, I'm the clerk of session, and I've been involved with our reopening committee task force. I'm also the Sunday school superintendent. As far as reopening, we have had 2 outdoor services with social distancing, mask wearing, health checks, that kind of thing. We're also planning a 3rd outdoor in-person service for what we call our homecoming service, which will be 2nd weekend in September. As far as Sunday school, we're still trying to figure out what the parents are interested in. We have a meeting tomorrow night where we're going to go over some of our ideas. And I will also say that Barbara has some great ideas, so that's why I asked her to be on today as well.
Great.
Some of the parents have, I'm sorry, one more thing. Some of the parents have said that children have had enough Zoom school so that they are interested in some in-person activities as long as we can do them with the right precautions.
Great. Good to see you. Carol at Hitchcock. I reached out to Carol. Carol. Are you there?
Oh, yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay. I'm echoing here. So that's probably my computer. So yeah, I reached out to Carol in advance because I've been following some of Hitchcock's things on Facebook. So Carol, where are you all?
We had our first in-person service this past Sunday, which went really well. It was a hybrid, which will continue indefinitely. So that worked out really well. We had some great feedback. This Sunday will be our first kind of open registration for people to register, and then we'll have hopefully, building up more towards maybe 40. It was only about 20 people this last week. Children will remain with their parents right now. We've determined that's the best in terms of the worship service. We've been doing Zoom Sunday School since April, which I've become an amateur magician, an amateur scientist, everything to kind of keep it interesting and fun. But we have heard, as we just heard a few minutes ago, some parents are open to some small in-person gatherings. So we're looking to do our backpack blessing and a backpack and mask blessing, kind of separate to our worship service. Get a food truck in and try to make it a bit of fun and family oriented, and then just doing some smaller, like 4th and 5th grade, maybe a Bible, like a little Bible story for the younger kids and a craft. But really focusing on keeping it small and outdoors while we can, and really kind of probably focusing 1 month at a time. And as we it gets colder and we see how we're doing, we'll kind of readjust that and keep moving as we go towards October.
Thank you. Karen at Katona. We've got a Katona rep here. Go ahead.
You're muted.
I'm the co-CE elder with Denise Parker, and we've been meeting with Jack and also Linda Orsenigo to put together some ideas about what's possible. We've also surveyed some of our parents, and we concur with Carol that parents are really talking about the kids are zoomed out when it comes to the weekends, especially if they have to do anything virtually during the week. We also realized that many of the things that we asked them to do virtually requires parents the younger age level. So that that's also sometimes a difficult draw for parents if they've already sat through a service or they've, they have other plans. So we are looking at, we have had one outdoor service. We have another outdoor service coming up, I believe, Jack, this Sunday, right? Yeah, the 30th.
It was scheduled for the 30th. We're going to postpone till the 6th to give us more time to strengthen the outdoor Wi-Fi signal.
So truthfully, I think, and Denise, please, and Linda, please feel free to join in. I think personally, I feel like I'm struggling a little bit because we're looking to see what we could do for both the Sunday school and the youth groups to maybe have some in contact kind of family events at the church at a separate time from the service. And then we're looking at what we can do on a more regular basis. So Denise, you want to add anything to that?
I think those are the big things because we really are struggling, but Carol, it kind of sounds like, when you're starting some small events like the backpack and things like that, that might be in line with maybe what some folks at our church are kind of thinking about as well. So I'm curious to hear, what your plans might be in regards to that. And I know we're also trying to plan returning back to the church with our homecoming Sunday, September 13th. But in light of that, again, we're looking for people to do health screening and temperature checks. So we're kind of working through that through a committee at this point. But we will be asking children to stay with their families during the worship service.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to be handing it back to Carol after we're finished to get us rolling on on some ideas so that we can all sort of listen to what we're coming up with. The creativity is abounding. It really is. Brenda, how are you at Peekskill?
Good afternoon. At Peekskill, we did do a couple of tent services, and the first one went over really well. The second one was not really well attended, so we've kind of suspended that for the time being because for the number of people who showed up, it's just a lot of work with all the protocols that have to be in place. And again, like everybody else, the children are staying with their parents. The one thing we were able to continue, we had 2 confirmands this year, and because there were only the 2, they were able to meet with the pastor, and still go through with the course, and they were received in the middle of July. We kept moving it back until we could get everything set up, but that did happen. Other than that, I don't really have any insights into any plans, and I was hoping that this forum would give me some insights into what I could do and what I should do going forward.
Oh boy, confirmands. Didn't even think about that one. Oh, okay, that's a whole nother ballgame. Hey, Heather.
Hi there, this is great. I'm glad to be here. So I did teach confirmation via Zoom this year. I had 6 confirmands and it was horrible. It was really rough. And it turned into a check-in time for the teenagers. It's really hard to go through a curriculum and do that kind of face-to-face work when you can't read body language and, people are going in and out of rooms and, it was just kind of crazy. We had 8th and 9th graders getting confirmed this year. But then they all presented their own pieces and we recorded it, and we pre-recorded them answering the questions of membership, and then all of that got shown during our live worship stream. So that was kind of cool. It worked out. But looking at the fall, we are just pretty frightened, I'll be honest. We opened for in-person worship probably 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago. We have not had more than 8 people attend worship, which mostly I'm glad for, just because I'm still pretty frightened about all of this. And of course, the people who are showing up are people who are in high risk categories. So, you know, you go figure. But I think the building is a powerful reminder of God's presence for so many people. So we're looking at, we have a seminary intern who I'm working with currently, and our Christian ed directors have both just stepped down. So this has just sort of fallen into our lap. We're thinking about maybe hiring somebody to help us, but of course this is a crazy time to be thinking about that. So we are looking at doing something online for the fall. Our local school district has put off in-person schooling until the middle of October. And so everything is online until then. And so we are thinking that we want to create maybe children's messages that we sort of smush together with one of the cute biblical story videos that you can find pretty easily on YouTube, and sort of offer that to families, whether it's offered on a Sunday afternoon or a Wednesday evening or whatever, just offering them something. But I'm interested in hearing more about sort of small group stuff that we can do in person. So I guess that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin, how are you?
Hi, I'm Justin Hilden, a pastoral associate at Pleasantville Presbyterian Church. My second year here. Let's see, plans for reopening. Nothing as of yet. We have our plan put together for when we would reopen. And right now we're tentatively, the local schools are reopening on a hybrid model after Labor Day and seeing how that goes, and then having some discussions about October, what that might look like. But definitely nothing set in stone. Visiting about some youth group ideas right now, and planning to at least begin all of those on Zoom. Back in the spring when we did that, most of our boys in middle school had been kind of the bigger group. Then we went on Zoom, got really quite small, and the girls who had been just a few, all of them ended up coming to the Zoom activities. I also did confirmation last year. We just had 2 boys in that 8th grade. We began together in person, and about 75-minute sessions that were really great, and lots of different kinds of activities. And then went on Zoom, and yeah, I mean, I was very proud of the boys. They showed up every single time, but we cut it down from 75 minutes to about 25, half an hour. And yeah, you know, they did great, but it wasn't the same experience.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Peace. Hi. Anna Grace.
Oh, sorry. My name is Anna Grace, and I'm the new pastoral resident at Huguenot Memorial Church. I've been here for a little over a month now, and I graduated from seminary last May. So right now we are in the process of trying to, figure out whether or not we are going to reopen maybe next month. We sent out a survey last week to congregants about, their opinion and their feelings about going back, and so far it's been pretty mixed. So we just don't know what that's going to look like yet. I mean, our priority is safety. So if that means not going back until next year, then that's what we'll do. We did have our first in-person event last Thursday night. We had an outside yard cleanup, and we had probably about 15 people come, and it was great. I mean, everyone wore masks even outside, and we just did yard work and socially distanced while still being able to socialize a little bit, and that went well. So we'll see once we get some more of the surveys back in. And but yeah, in terms of like doing anything for children or youth, it's kind of the same thing with the Zoom. Like the kids are just zoomed out, and we tried with confirmation, or Paul did last spring, and it was just hard to do confirmation over Zoom. So I'm looking forward to any ideas that you all might have.
Fantastic. Thank you. Good to meet you. Welcome. Ekima, welcome. Are you there?
I am, yes.
Okay.
All right, so Reverend Clermont kind of like gave an overview of what we're doing at Larchmont, at least for the next couple months, or what the ideas are. So I guess, I don't know, my role is a very transitionary role, just not just for Christian education, but I think like moving forward in like their upcoming pastor searches. So I think that this year was already gonna be a year to experiment and like have a little bit of fun, take a little bit of risk anyway. But now with Zoom and is it actually safe to meet in person stuff, I feel like there's going to be a lot of like reality checking happening, like what is possible, but also like what do people want. What does online Sunday school look like? How often is it meeting? Is probably like one of like the biggest questions I feel like we're probably going through right now. There was a survey that went out in the beginning of the summer before I started. But realistically it needs to go out again. And then, and then potentially even dreaming through like adult Sunday school, like what that could look like too, but that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, lots of thinking and dreaming through how we're gonna survive these next couple months. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Welcome. Elizabeth, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Sorry, let me turn me on here. Am I on? Okay.
You are. You are.
So, hi. I am on our Christian Ed committee at Irvington Presbyterian Church. And I was just randomly looking up the Presbyterian and I saw this meeting. So I'm like, oh. So we are actually doing what a lot of people are doing, and that is checking in with parents and finding out what they're comfortable with. I know we're planning on going back to in-person services in a couple of weeks, but the Sunday school portion, they're still talking about doing via Zoom. And I've got 3 kids who do it, and it's just not going to work. It's not going to happen. It's just not. They do have enough of it. We are actually, in our district, we're going back 5 days a week, but we'll see for how long. And the whole computer thing was just, at the end of the day, they don't, and I say they're going back 5 days a week, but half of each day they're going to be on Zoom because the teacher is dividing up the classroom into 2 different classrooms. So they'll only see their teacher on screen for half the time, and they'll be with an assistant. So it's a lot of screen time for these kids. And I think one thing that people don't talk about is the effects of the isolation on kids, and Sunday school and being in church. The community is certainly so important. And what I think that they lack that. I mean, it's one thing to get the training, of course, and that's something that a lot of us are missing out on, just the basics that you get at Sunday school, but it's also the community. And there are signs of depression happening. There's withdrawal. There's really serious issues happening with the kids because of isolation. And I think that a lot of the ideas I've been hearing just with all of you have been very good ones. I think getting outside, although for how much longer, I don't know, And it is dependent upon weather, of course. But if we could find a way to get the kids together and have them have a meaningful community experience, there's just, it's really irreplaceable. And I think you learn more that way. This business of sitting in front of a screen and learning it's miserable. And the kids miss it. And I think sometimes on Sundays, it's hard enough to get everybody ready and go to church until they get there. Then they enjoy themselves. So if you take that away, the enjoyment part, and it's all just the drudgery, I don't know how that's, going to resonate with them over the long term, what their experience is going to be. So I'm hopeful that we can find a way to get the kids. I mean, they're talking about in-person services, but still Zoom on Sunday school. And as a member of the Christian Ed committee, I'm saying it's really not the best.
Right.
So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, great. Thank you. I see one more. Linda from Katona, are you you have something to add, or are you there?
Yes, no, I'm here.
Okay.
No, not too much to add. Denise and Karen and I met together with Jack, so we've been through a lot of the conversations. I mean, I think we're in agreement that Zoom is not the way to go, but it's hard to figure out what to do. We were thinking of having like a kickoff day, maybe, where you could have some of the families in their bubbles outside and just be able to talk about how to go forward with Sunday school. But but we have the same problem everybody does. I do think it's still a very risky time. So and I agree that the community is what, for even the adults, is what's going to be so missing. And in reading the plans for the way we're going back, I mean, I have to say, I came away from some of the plans thinking, okay, I'll watch at home. It's very, and I understand why we need the plans, but you can't talk to anybody. You have to leave right away. You have to walk in one way, walk out another way. It's not the part. In our church is very community-based church. Fellowship is very, very important. So I don't know how to recreate that, though, in this era. I think probably you can't. We just have to wait it out and hope we can really re-engage people when we can do that in a more natural, human way.
Right. Wow, there's some challenges, huh? Kids are zoomed out. That's yeah, I'm zoomed out. Are you zoomed out? I'm zoomed out.
Yes, we all are. So I think if we can come up with any ideas for small groups, that would be wonderful, that people could share for how to do it safely and following all the rules, but still be able to do something that's different than Zoom.
Great. Okay, so we've gotten a few little tidbits of ideas, and let's just kick it off and send it around. Your own volunteer contributions, except for Carol, who I'm going to ask to kick it off, and just give us some ideas, Carol. What's going on? What kind of specific things have you been doing that perhaps don't involve Zoom? Or maybe a hybrid, or what?
Well, I think, first, other than Zoom Sunday School, a couple things we did was around Easter and in, Palm Sunday, we gave little bags, like they could either pick them up or we dropped them at their door. And also I did that over the summer, like a summer pickup bag. And it was interesting just how popular that was. I went on the internet and found out other people and stole all of their ideas, and then did things like Skittles prayers. And I got the funniest with Skittles. And, one little boy now thinks there's always going to be Skittles available at church. But that was a real hit with the kids, to get something in person. And I went and dropped them off at each door. Other than those things, kind of preparing forward the last 2-3 weeks, I've just been having parent feedback and social nights at my house. I've just done, maximum 7 to 8 people, socially distant. And the only thing I could say is I just got a card in the mail that I opened up that said, thank you so much for this time together. There's much to be anxious about as the school season gets underway, but the meeting made me feel hopeful, even joyful, that our church community will come out even stronger on the other side. So it's interesting for me, I was really doing it to get feedback, but so much feedback came from them just as parents to be together again.
Can you describe what that looks like? What did that look like?
That looked like basically a circle of chairs in our backyard. And I had kind of ideas of what we wanted to do in the fall, both in person and on Zoom, and kind of just went around and asked people what were they comfortable with. And it's a mixed bag, which means we kind of have to have a little bit of option out there for everyone. But the main things we're doing, we're going to continue our Zoom Sunday School on Sunday because we have a pretty good turnout for that. Not everyone, but it's appealing to a certain group of people. We're going to add a 4th and 5th grade, we're calling it Connect to the Bible, every other week with our 4th and 5th graders, because that seems to be the group that's dropping off. And I'm sure they're the ones that are getting zoomed out at school. So we're going to try to do that in person until the weather changes, then probably back to Zoom, unfortunately. And then we've always had kind of Wednesdays at Hitchcock where our children's choirs sing. John King, who's our music director, is awesome. And I'm kind of piggybacking off of him and going to have kind of a crossover Bible story craft for them to do at that time. Or if they're not comfortable staying or maybe have siblings they don't want to hang around, because where are they going to hang around at? They can actually take that to go as well. On top of that, we've decided, the rally day, I'm sure for a lot of you, that's a big event for us. And the backpack blessing is awesome. And our new associate pastor said, let's do the masks as well. So we're doing but they still want it separate. They don't want it at the same time. I think both the parents and the church community, because what I'm hearing from people is the same way I feel. As much as I'm excited to do some of these things, I have 3 kids. I'm kind of worried, is everyone going to keep their masks on? Are we keeping the kids? We don't want to be a hot spot for anything. That would be devastating. So, really thinking about how can we do that? And for us, we actually tried this out in spring. We usually have a yearly musical. And we did kind of a couple pieces of that in the parking lot, which was very effective and everyone was very good and followed the rules. And we basically just parked the cars kind of in a U shape. Everyone kind of popped their back of their car. We had a food truck come in, everyone socially distanced and ordered their food and then kind of ate that within their spot. And then we invited the children, kind of very spaced out in the middle of the parking lot, which is the same plan we're going to do for backpack blessing and masks, that they bring those in their spots. It's devastating not to sing, but what we'll do instead is maybe some games just to get them, kind of excited, maybe Simon Says or something like that, and then carry on to make it a little more formal, record that, and that'll be part of our Rally Day service as well. We're also working with our Presbyterian Women group. They came up with a great idea of rallying for justice, rallying for hunger, and kind of making it a week-long event where the children will be part of that. How can they give back during this time and rallying towards something as well. So far, that's kind of where we are. We're in the planning stage. We got the food truck confirmed today. So the next stage is communication and in all of that, making sure we're doing it in a safe way, I think the piece that we're constantly thinking about. But it was successful. People said, gosh, that was great. It was a little scary because it was our first time out, but that was great. Could we do something like that again? And so that's right now our plan, and we'll kind of build from that. I think until September happens and we know what happens with school, it's hard to say where we'll go from there, but we're going to start with those kind of bite-sized pieces, and we'll build from the feedback we get from the parents and the kids. Obviously, they're pretty honest, so we'll build from that and where we go from there.
Wow, thank you. Who else has some ideas? Share something that you've done or are planning on doing.
There's a question in the chat. How many families typically attend these kinds of events, Carol?
We had at the last one, we had, I want to say, there were probably 20 cars there, but our parking lot is pretty big. So it was about 20 parents. I'm trying to do those numbers now to make sure we kind of stay within a group. We don't want people just showing up if we want to contain the numbers. But because our parking lot's big enough and we can kind of shut it off as well, we can kind of keep that in a reasonable amount too. But about 20 families, I think, came then. I think it could be a little more for this. I'll try to add them up as some of the people are talking.
And you also have, what kinds of musicals are you doing?
Oh, John King is definitely the master of that. He's an amazing choir director, been there for 30 years. And basically every other year, he manages to pull together the most amazing things. This one was Moses and the Freedom Fanatics. I think before that we did, I can't remember. Let me think. My kids have been in so many of these now. Something about Noah's Ark. But they're kind of every other year so that it's not constant. It kind of keeps it rotating. But John King would be absolutely the person to talk to about that. He does a great job with them. They're a lot of fun.
Besides you and John, how much support do you have? How many teachers do you have? What kind of volunteers?
Oh, typically that's such a great question, and we have such a great group of volunteers. And we have 4 teachers per every 2 grades, so we have probably about 12 volunteers for our K through 5. Definitely more when it comes to middle school and youth. And the hardest thing I've been thinking about is I don't want to lose that support. And I've kind of been a one-man show lately. So going into the fall, I've really been thinking about, well, what could we do to continue keeping them involved and active without losing them, because their knowledge and their background and also just for the kids, I think seeing different faces and kind of intergenerational within the church is super important. So typically, we have a lot of volunteers. Right now, I'd say we're kind of doing this within our church staff. And I've been thinking about how can I make sure we're bringing these volunteers back in. They do a lot, I think right now, just a lot of them are parents themselves. So they're, getting their kids to all the events. And then while they're there, they're helping out, definitely. I think it'll be interesting to see with the in-person, we're going to need a lot more support now. But I haven't really been using them effectively lately. And I need to be more... I need to try to figure out ways to keep them engaged also.
It's sort of been a crisis mode. Just get it done, get something done. Yeah. But it was interesting, whoever said this, that we do fall into that get something out there mode when we have to think about what that experience actually is like for these kids. I mean, I think Elizabeth, I think you said that is what are we actually doing and it sounds like you have some really great experiences. Can you mention some of the online resources that you use?
Me?
Carol.
Oh, Carol.
I've kind of been that's been kind of the fun thing. I think I've dabbled in curriculums that maybe I would have just stuck with the norm in the past, but we usually use Grace and pretty much all the Presbyterian ones, but the Grace and Gratitude's kind of usually our go-to curriculum, which was good, but quite lengthy for what I needed. Then I went to Illustrated Ministry and they had a lot of good compassion, especially over what's happened through the summer. They were really good lessons to kind of work with through the summertime. Then I went to Awesome Adventures because they have an amazing kids section right now. And I'm kind of looking to use that new one. I think it's God is Love is the new one they're putting out, which are kind of, you don't have to buy a whole quarter. You can buy just certain weeks of a lesson. But what's been nice is I've been able to experience them, looking at them to see how they might be good for us in the future. But I wouldn't say any of them are foolproof in terms of virtual. It's required a lot of, going online, trying to find, I love this website, Family Matters, where it's a pastor and a daughter who do different, magic tricks and object lessons. And just trying to do sort of the wow factor, then the lesson, and then getting them to talk at the end. So it's helped me to have a structure, but none of them have been like foolproof virtually. The only other thing I do also is on Fridays, I usually send, if there's like that take home thing for parents, I'll usually send that with maybe 1 or 2 crafts, and I call it Sunday School at Home. So if they're not wanting to come, or they can't be part of Zoom Sunday School, they could do that separately on their own as well. I don't know how many do it, but it's out there if they're interested.
I love that idea.
And Carol, when you do Sunday school virtually, are you trying to hit like K through 5th grade, or do you break up the lessons based on ages, or how do you break it up with the kids?
Yeah, typically during normal times, we did K through 5, and it's been interesting because we've a lot of preschool kids have started coming on, like 3 and 4-year-old, which is great because you can mute them, so it's okay if they walk out. But it's kind of geared to that K through 3 grade. I definitely feel that we've lost the 4th, 5th in this. So it was good for this period of time, but that's why we've kind of want to add this other thing on Mondays for them, just because we feel like maybe it could be deeper and kind of reconnect them. They've just kind of dropped off, and so unless they've had a younger sibling attending, we haven't really seen the 4th and 5th graders. So that was our attempt, but now we need to that's our way of hopefully trying to get them re-engaged.
And if I could just ask, what is that program that you were talking about for the 4th and 5th grade?
Well, I haven't decided yet, but we're going to call it, we're calling the group Connecting with the Bible. And one idea I have is I'm going to try to stick with whatever theme is on Sunday to try to make my work a little bit easier. So whatever that sort of theme is on Sunday, making it a little meatier for the Monday. But the other thing we hear quite often from our middle school programs is that the kids get into middle school and they don't know a lot even about how the Bible is structured. So we might just have a piece on what's in the Old Testament, how is it broken up, what's in the New Testament, what are the Gospels, and just kind of breaking that down and then maybe ending each session with a Bible trivia. So it's more that kind of social element of getting them back, and then I think from that we'll kind of determine how we flush it out from there. I think our real intent is to get them together. That's the idea. I haven't thought too much about it yet.
Thank you.
Sorry, so Carol, so this is virtually done, or you're having a group come to the church on Monday?
Well, I've just prepared an email, hopefully to go out today. The idea is to do a small in-person gathering at church, and that'll be kind of only every other week because we feel like every week's almost a little too much. So every other week, and then move towards Zoom as we get it. If I start to get I'm kind of asking them, are you comfortable in person or do you prefer Zoom? And whatever the kind of consensus is, but the feeling I get is they want in person while it's still warm. And it's a small enough group that I think we'll be able to do that easily. But it's a little fly by the seat of our pants, I have to say as well.
Okay. And your parked cars thing you were talking about, that's not on Sunday? Is that at a different time, or is it after the service, or?
We're going to do it separate on Tuesday. We thought the September 8th, which is kind of, I think a few schools are starting on that Tuesday, but most are starting the Wednesday or Thursday. We just thought it kind of, at least we're doing it before they head off to school. I think parents are really wanting that prayer and blessing for their kids as well as they send them off to these programs. We felt that was a good way. And we also, we want to keep Sunday small as well. And we're afraid if we kind of build that into Sunday also, that might just make it a normal rally day. And, all of a sudden there's more people there than we should have.
Right.
So that's why we've done it separate. And then we'll try our best way to record it and make it part of the hybrid service.
In that prayers and blessings gathering that you're talking about, is that where you're doing the backpacks?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're planning, our name's going to be a backpack and mask blessing. Haven't decided about the word event or not yet.
Right.
So friends, Jack has asked an interesting question for all of you. Have things been happening on your live stream worship or on your Zoom worship, however you all are doing that involves children?
No.
Justin, go.
Yeah, I did a children's Sunday. So we had our regular scheduled children's Sunday in the spring. but then we got shut down, and I rescheduled it for about a month later. Yeah, and so I had the children, like the older classes, they got to like write the prayer confession. My confirmation kids did the prayer confession, and yeah, all the kids did different parts, leading the Lord's Prayer and the prayers of the people, etc. And so I did it with Zooming different groups, and then and the gospel lesson I wrote a little skit, and so all the kids had different little role for the skit, and so I recorded it in maybe 3 to 4 different Zoom groups with the kids over 2 weeks. I mean, just giving them a lot of time and working around family schedules, and then I edited it all together in just iMovie. And we don't do worship live, we do live premieres, and so that worked really well. And yeah, so we did a live premiere, and the kids did basically the whole service, and it was really meaningful. It also took more patience than I thought when I was yeah.
I bet it took a lot of time.
Yeah, like I thought, as early to my Zoom too, I thought, oh, we could all say the Lord's Prayer together, and that'd be really cute. But everyone saying the Lord's Prayer on Zoom, it did not work. And
Yeah,
so
it's not cute, is it? No.
Yeah, so I gave every kid a word, and they each did one word at a time.
Well,
It
that's
was
good.
fine. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I would think that it would have been gratifying for folks to see all the children like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
See something with all the kids. We're still here. We're still. That's an interesting idea. Wow. Is anyone else?
Oh, I just had a question. Do people have like tech help to put these productions together, or if you're pre-recording, or how do you guys usually manage that? Do people just record something on their iPhone and send it to you, or how's that been working?
We have a tech person who does all that for us. And we just do a live stream.
Us as well. There we have about 2 or 3 people, and you kind of prepare your bit and you send it off, and then they pull it together. Excuse me.
At Freedom Plains, we had a volunteer tech person who was amazing, and he's just moved, I guess, down to Georgia. And we are scrambling because the rest of us left behind are not tech people. So we're just trying to piece it together. So that's one of our challenges for sure.
That's an interesting question that Karen has in the chat. Is there a confidentiality issue? Justin, with having kids do worship, are you sending out invites? Is it just church members? How does that work for whoever on?
Like for the children's thing, I sent it out. The emails was all with the parents of the children, so I was never communicating directly with the children. And also, like in the email, I was asking, your permission for them to be recorded, and it'll be live, on our Facebook and YouTube. Yeah. So try to be mindful of that, and have. I always had another adult part of our meeting, so even if it's a virtual meeting, I wouldn't be the only adult there. Yeah. Trying to do best practices.
Okay. Has anybody
for youth group stuff? I did just note that I recorded, and I told the parents that I'm going to have the adult there, but I'm going to record all of the meetings, and I keep that on a hard drive. And then in case there is an issue, heaven forbid, then there's that.
Okay. One thing I can offer you is the consultant. This isn't doing it, unfortunately, but it can be very helpful. The consultant that we had for congregations for going online and going Zoom or whatever they wanted to do, we had someone here as a consultant, and now he's been hired as a part-time staff person. And that person is accessible to all of you. He's very well versed in technology, and part of his in fact, the number one part of his job description is to be available to consult with congregations. So whereas he's not going to be able to do it for you, he will do everything to help walk you through it, and to help you with your first venture into that world. So if that's at all helpful, his name's Casey Carbone, and today is his first day. It's very weird to onboard someone without seeing them in person, but we've been using him. I think several people on this Zoom have spoken to Casey at one point or another. He is an awesome resource to you. He's very amenable, easy to talk to, and believe me, being one of those non-tech people, he helped me do sermons online and do different things. So he is available to you. And his email is just being set up today. So it's going to be harder to get to him for a day or two, but do be on the lookout for that. And if you want to email him now, it's Pastor Casey Carbone. Susan, could you just put that in the chat, his email, so everyone can see that? And then you're welcome to reach out to him and ask anything that you have, questions that you have around technology, around equipment, around whatever you need in that world. So that is a resource that I hope that you'll make use of. Has anybody encountered any curriculum that has made this adjustment yet? That has made the adjustment to the virtual world? I know, Carol, you were saying that none of them that you've come across have seemed to really make that adjustment yet. No?
I found the ones that, there's some great stuff out there, but all of it I felt, from my perspective, needed to be adapted a bit to work. A lot of copying and scanning.
Yeah.
Are you all addressing the actual issue of the coronavirus with the kids at all in church school or in what you're sending out? Or are you assuming how they're feeling and responding to it at all? I know, Carol, you said the parents felt relieved just being together. I'm wondering if there's an occasion to have some kind of conversation like that with kids as well if they're brought back together, or how you explain why they're seeing a Zoom call only and so forth. So I take the silence means nobody is.
In the spring, I did my internship in the city, and so part of that was high school and confirmation class, and so it was obviously older kids, and talking about being in the middle of a pandemic consumed a lot of our time, to be honest. But I think it was it was a great group of kids, so it really lent well to the curriculum that we were doing. And then also conversations around confirmation and not being able to do it. So at least for me, I was able to do that in the spring a little bit, but obviously with little kids.
Yeah, I didn't mean with first graders. I meant with older children. With adults, I'm finding a lot of adults who end up talking to me, asking questions, saying, I really understand those wilderness stories now, or in the Bible, and I'm wondering if the same thing happens with older kids. So I'm thinking about middle school and up, whether there's an occasion to have those kinds of conversations with them as well. But
well, I am very mindful of the time. I think if you found this helpful, would love to send out an invitation to do this again sometime soon, if that's okay, and hopefully you found something that you could use. We are going to, and the reason I want to send this out to you is in an email is so that you also have each other's contact information, which might be helpful to you as well going forward. Again, we're going to have a sort of youth group And I'm, at least when I was in there, the boundaries are very fluid between youth group and Christian education in a lot of congregations. And if nothing else, generally the same people are responsible for that same world. So if you would find that helpful, I am going to be sending you an invitation to that. And I think if we could, as things become clearer, this is still very murky for a lot of us, waiting for schools to decide what they're going to do, waiting for the building and grounds people to decide what they're going to do. But I think as things become a little more concrete, maybe we'll have some more things that we can share or ask of each other. But I want to thank all of you. Carol, I particularly want to thank you. I know I put you on the spot, but really thank you for sharing a lot of the information with us today. And so go in peace to love and serve the Lord. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Did you see Izzette's